The silent threshold. The galactic community had always viewed humans as an anomaly, too stubborn to know their place, too resilient to be properly subjugated, and too innovative to be safely ignored. When humanity first achieved faster-than-light travel and ventured beyond their solar system, the established species of the galactic Concord had expected them to behave like all newcomers, grateful for admission, deferential to ancient powers, and willing to assume their proper place at the bottom of the cosmic hierarchy. They were wrong. Humans did not bow. They did not scrape. They smiled politely in diplomatic chambers while their scientists reverse-engineered alien technology at a pace that alarmed the elder races. They built colonies on worlds deemed uninhabitable. They traded aggressively, adapted swiftly, and refused to accept arbitrary limitations on their expansion. Most troubling of all, they extended their peculiar concept of human rights to all sentient beings they encountered, including species traditionally used as servants or resources by the dominant powers. The Concord tolerated this disruption because humans remained militarily weak compared to the established powers. Their ships were fewer, their weapons primitive, their defensive capabilities laughable. Humans compensated with audacity and unpredictability, but everyone knew that if they truly became problematic, they could be contained. For nearly 60 years, an uneasy balance held. Humanity expanded its modest territory, while carefully avoiding direct confrontation with the major powers. They formed alliances with minor species, developed trade networks that bypassed Concord restrictions, and gradually built a reputation as troublesome but useful participants in galactic affairs. Captain Maya Chen stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Olive Branch, watching the swirling blue-green atmosphere of Proxima Colony below. At 43, she had spent most of her adult life representing Earth's interests in increasingly hostile diplomatic forums. She'd watched the Concord systematically undermine human initiatives, impose punitive tariffs on their exports, and accidentally allow pirates to raid isolated human settlements. Still, she'd maintained her belief that patience and persistence would eventually win respect. "They've agreed to meet, Captain," said her aide, Lieutenant Abara. "Though the Valaxian representative insists it be on their vessel rather than at the colony's neutral facility." Maya nodded, unsurprised by the petty power play. "Standard procedure. We accept their terms while noting the breach of protocol. Have the shuttle prepared." "Ma'am, security is advising against this," Abara said quietly. "Intelligence reports unusual movement of Valaxian military assets in this system." "All the more reason to establish dialogue," Maya replied. "If they're planning something, I'd rather know about it." 6 hours later, Maya Chen and her diplomatic team were dead, along with 290,000 human colonists on Proxima Colony. The Valaxians claimed it was an unfortunate accident, a cascading failure in their new planetary defense system that misidentified the colony as a military installation and deployed atmosphere-igniting weapons before supervisors could intervene. The Galactic Concord expressed formal regret for the technical incident. They offered compensation at standard rates for loss of alien life, approximately 1/6 the amount that would have been required had the victims been members of any founding Concord species. They suggested that perhaps humans had contributed to the malfunction by operating communications equipment on unauthorized frequencies. Earth's response was immediate and unexpected. Within 24 hours of the official Concord ruling, every human ambassador, trade representative, and diplomatic officer throughout the galaxy received the same encoded message. They quietly closed their offices, boarded the nearest human vessel, and departed. No explanations, no negotiations, no response to frantic inquiries from their alien counterparts. For the first time since achieving spaceflight, humanity went silent. The silence was unnerving. Human merchant vessels disappeared from trade routes. Human outposts ceased all non-essential communication with alien entities. Border stations broadcast automated warnings that any unauthorized vessels entering human space would be considered hostile. Then even these messages stopped, replaced by an eerie emptiness across all frequencies. For 3 months, the Concorde waited for the humans to emerge from their tantrum. Surely they would realize their economic dependence on galactic trade networks. Surely they would understand that isolation was suicide for a minor power. But the silence continued, and slowly, unease began to spread. Dazarek, a mid-level Lenteri analyst in the Concorde's intelligence division, was the first to notice the pattern. He had been tasked with monitoring the seemingly abandoned human outposts along the borders of Concorde space. "They're still there," he reported to his superiors, mandibles clicking nervously. "But they're different." Drone footage showed human facilities operating with minimal personnel. Automated systems kept life support functioning and basic maintenance ongoing, but most inhabitants had simply vanished. More disturbing were the new structures, strange installations built around or beneath existing facilities. Metallic architectures with no clear purpose, emitting energy signatures unlike anything in Concorde databases. "They're building something," Zarek insisted. "Something big." His concerns were dismissed as panic-mongering. The humans were obviously consolidating their population, pulling back to core worlds to lick their wounds. The new structures were probably desperate attempts to automate functions previously performed by now-recalled personnel. Nothing to worry about. Then the merchant vessel Star Whisper returned from an unauthorized venture into human territory. Its captain, a Morrigan trader known for smuggling luxury goods through contested regions, had thought to profit from humanity's self-imposed isolation by offering premium goods at exorbitant prices. The Star Whisper emerged from FTL at the edge of Concorde space, broadcasting distress signals on all frequencies. When Concorde patrol vessels reached it, they found the crew alive, but in a state of shock. The ship's logs and sensor recordings were confiscated immediately, but rumors spread quickly. The Star Whisper had penetrated deeper into human territory than any alien vessel since the withdrawal. What they'd found defied explanation. Massive structures in orbit around previously minor human worlds. Entire asteroids hollowed out and converted into facilities of unknown purpose. And ships, countless ships of unfamiliar design, moving in perfect coordination without any detectable communications. Most disturbing was what happened when the Star Whisper was discovered. They weren't attacked or destroyed. Instead, a single human vessel, if it could even be called that, approached them. Witnesses described it as more like a piece of space that decided to move, a distortion in reality rather than a conventional craft. It scanned the Star Whisper with technology that bypassed all shields and defenses as if they didn't exist, then simply pushed them. Somehow, the human vessel created a localized FTL field around the alien ship and propelled it out of human space, a journey that should have taken weeks compressed into seconds. The message was clear. "We could destroy you effortlessly, but we're simply sending you home." For now. After 6 months of silence, the Concorde's patience wore thin. Despite growing evidence that something unprecedented was occurring in human space, the dominant powers were more annoyed than concerned. Humans had always been dramatic. This technological posturing was obviously a bluff, an attempt to seem more formidable than they were. The Valaxians, particularly, were irritated by humanity's reaction to what they maintained was a regrettable accident. At their urging, the Concorde authorized a fact-finding mission to the edge of human territory. In reality, a show of force consisting of 16 capital ships drawn from the fleets of 5 major powers. They arrived at the former location of Outpost Epsilon, once a minor human research station monitoring a pulsar. Scans showed the original station was gone, replaced by something vast and incomprehensible, a structure that seemed to phase in and out of normal space, simultaneously present and absent. "This is Concorde Fleet Actual to Human Installation," broadcast Admiral Krav of the Valaxians. "Your isolation violates multiple provisions of Galactic Concorde membership. You will power down any defensive systems, prepare to be boarded for inspection, and return representatives to the Concorde Council immediately." For long moments, there was no response. Then every system on every ship in the Concorde fleet simultaneously shut down. Propulsion, weapons, life support, even personal devices carried by crew members. In the sudden darkness of 16 powerless vessels drifting in space, view screens activated of their own accord, showing the same image. A human woman in a simple gray uniform, her expression neither angry nor triumphant, merely resolved. This is Acting Secretary General Fatima Reyes of the United Earth Government. For 60 years, humanity has participated in good faith with the Galactic Concorde despite systematic discrimination, economic sabotage, and tacit approval of violence against our citizens. We believed patience would eventually earn respect. We were wrong. She paused, her eyes somehow seeming to meet those of every being watching. The destruction of Proxima Colony and the Concorde's dismissive response has demonstrated that the existing galactic order views humans as disposable. We reject this assessment. We have withdrawn not out of weakness or fear, but to give ourselves time to implement the Lazarus Protocol, a contingency we hope would never be necessary. Behind her, a window showed Earth orbit, now encircled by structures of impossible scale and alien geometry. Your vessels have been temporarily neutralized as a demonstration. Power will return in 1 hour, allowing you safe passage back to Concorde space. Do not return. What you have witnessed is approximately 1% of our current capability. We did not want this. You have forced our hand. The transmission ended, leaving 16 ships full of the galaxy's most powerful species floating helpless in the dark, confronted with a terrible realization. They had gravely, perhaps fatally, misunderstood humanity's capacity for adaptation and for vengeance. In the silence of disabled ships, as alien hearts pounded with unfamiliar fear, the terrible truth dawned. The humans hadn't been hiding. They'd been building. Reckoning dawn. General Thorm of the Valaxian High Command had never experienced fear, not real fear, until he watched the recording from Admiral Crabbe's fleet for the 12th time. The casual demonstration of power was unlike anything in the Concorde's 20,000-year history. No shots fired. No ultimatums given. Simply complete technological dominance, exercised with the ease of brushing away an insect. "Play it again," he ordered, his scaled skin darkening with stress. "Focus on the background details." His analysts, a collection of the finest military minds from 7 species, complied silently. They too had been watching the recording obsessively, looking for any hint of weakness, any sign that the human display was mere illusion. "The structures in Earth orbit," said Kella, a Morgan theoretical physicist. "They shouldn't be possible. They appear to intersect with themselves across dimensional planes. And the energy readings, it's as if they're drawing power from somewhere outside our universe." "Impossible," Thorm growled. "They're humans, barely 300 years from discovering electricity. This has to be trickery." "With respect, General," Kella replied, her feathered crest flattening in submission. "We've been monitoring their technological progression since first contact. They don't develop like other species. They don't refine and perfect one technology before moving to the next. They leap chaotically, pursuing 1,000 paths simultaneously. Most fail, but those that succeed." She gestured helplessly at the screen. "We mistake their method for madness because it's so unlike our own." Thorm turned away, unwilling to accept the implications. The Valaxians had been one of the founding members of the Galactic Concorde, achieved spaceflight 15,000 years before humans crawled out of their caves. The idea that these newcomers could leapfrog millennia of careful advancement was absurd. "And yet, what do they want?" he asked finally. "If this display is genuine, why not simply demand concessions? Why not attack?" "Perhaps," said an elderly Torrid strategist, "they are showing restraint, or perhaps they're not yet ready. This Lazarus Protocol could be incomplete." "Find out," Thorm ordered. "Mobilize every asset. I want to know what they're building and how to counter it." But intelligence gathering proved nearly impossible. Probes sent into human territory vanished without transmitting data. Surveillance vessels suffered mysterious navigational failures. Even long-range scans were distorted by what appeared to be localized alterations to the fundamental laws of physics around human installations. Meanwhile, fear spread through the Concorde like a contagion. Minor powers that had suffered under the established order began quietly reaching out to human space, offering resources, intelligence, even military support against the dominant species. The economic impact of humanity's withdrawal was proving more significant than predicted. Key supply chains collapsed, specialized human goods became unobtainable, and the complex web of trade relationships humans had built began to unravel. In the face of mounting crisis, the Concorde Council convened an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, all 217 member species were represented, filling the vast chamber with a cacophony of voices, scents, telepathic emissions, and visual displays. "We cannot allow this challenge to stand," declared the Valaxian premier. "If we show weakness now, every minor power will believe they can defy Concorde authority through similar means." "And how exactly do you propose to respond?" asked the representative of the Salacians, an ancient species known for their cautious wisdom. "Our finest military minds cannot even explain what we're seeing, let alone counteract it." "Send a unified fleet," the premier insisted. "Not 16 ships, 1,000. Overwhelm them with numbers." A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. No one voiced the obvious. If the humans could neutralize 16 ships without firing a shot, why not 1,000? The debate raged for days without resolution, until a single message arrived simultaneously on the personal devices of every delegate present. "We will speak." Once. No signature, no explanation of how they had bypassed the Council's legendary security protocols. Just 9 words that silenced the chamber instantly. 24 hours later, the Council chamber hosted an unprecedented sight. A human delegation, the first seen in public since the withdrawal. They arrived without a ship, simply appearing at the designated meeting point through means no one could detect. 3 humans, 1 female, 2 male, dressed in simple gray uniforms without insignia or rank markers. The woman stepped forward. In person, Secretary General Rice was unimposing. Average height, dark brown skin lined with age, short gray hair framing a face that looked more tired than threatening. Yet every being in the chamber fell silent as she took the speaker's position. The Galactic Concorde was formed to prevent the recurrence of the Extinction Wars. She began without preamble. It promised equal protection under galactic law, shared access to resources, and mutual defense against existential threats. These were noble ideals. They have been betrayed systematically and deliberately. She touched a small device on her wrist, and the chamber's massive display screens activated, showing scenes from across the galaxy. Concorde peacekeepers standing idle as corporate interests seized resource-rich worlds from indigenous populations, protective tariffs that forced developing species into economic servitude, accidental weapons discharges that conveniently eliminated troublesome populations. Humanity accepted these injustices because we believed change was possible from within, Rice continued. The destruction of Proxima Colony proved otherwise. It demonstrated that the Concorde's founding species view all others as expendable. This is not governance. It is empire disguised as cooperation. The Valaxian premier rose, his ornate ceremonial armor clicking as he moved. "Your allegations are offensive and one-sided. If humanity feels wronged, there are established procedures, which have been systematically corrupted." Rise interrupted, her voice still calm but cutting through his protestations like a blade. "We have submitted 283 formal grievances through proper channels. All were dismissed or indefinitely delayed. Proxima was merely the final confirmation of what we already knew. The system is designed to preserve power, not administer justice." She gestured, and new images appeared. The vast structures now orbiting Earth and other human worlds, installations on moons and asteroids, fleets of ships unlike anything the Concorde had ever built. For 6 months, you have wondered what we were building. I will tell you. Options. The Lazarus Protocol was conceived 12 years ago, when we first recognized the true nature of the Concorde. It had 3 stages: technological independence, defensive superiority, and, if necessary, offensive capability. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some demanding explanations, others calling for immediate military action. Rise waited until the Salatian elder used his ceremonial staff to strike the ancient resonating crystal at the center of the chamber, its pure tone gradually silencing the chaos. "You speak of weapons," the elder said quietly. "Yet you have not attacked, even after grave provocation. Why?" For the first time, Reyes's expression softened slightly. "Because despite everything, most humans still hope for better. We do not want dominance. We want change." She touched her wrist device again, and the screens displayed a new document: the Reformation Accords. "We propose a restructuring of the Galactic Concorde, eliminating inherited privilege and establishing truly equal representation for all sentient species. Economic policies based on mutual benefit rather than exploitation. And a unified defense force controlled by a council elected by population rather than historical precedent." The chamber fell so silent that breathing itself seemed an intrusion. What she proposed was revolutionary: an end to over 20,000 years of the established order. "This is extortion," hissed the Valaxian premier. "Demands backed by threat of force." "No," Rise replied. "It is evolution backed by capacity. We could have attacked. We could have destroyed. We chose instead to offer partnership. Real partnership, not subjugation disguised as alliance." She looked around the chamber, meeting alien gazes with steady resolve. "You have 30 days to consider. If the accords are accepted, humanity will share the technological advancements we've made, including defense systems that would protect all worlds equally. If rejected, we will not attack, but neither will we return to the previous arrangement. Humanity will chart its own course, and any species wishing to join us will be welcome." With that, the human delegation simply vanished, leaving stunned silence behind. In the days that followed, the Concorde fractured along new lines. The dominant powers, led by the Valaxians, advocated immediate military action before the human threat could grow further. But dozens of mid-tier species, seeing opportunity in the human proposal, began quiet negotiations among themselves. The minor powers, long oppressed, openly declared support for the Reformation Accords. General Thorm, against explicit orders, dispatched a stealth vessel to penetrate deep into human territory. Its mission was simple: gather intelligence on human military capabilities, and, if possible, identify weaknesses in the Lazarus systems. The vessel, named Shadow of Intent, was the pinnacle of Valaxian stealth technology. Its hull absorbed rather than reflected sensor suites, its engines left no conventional trace, and its crew of 12 were among the finest special operators in the galaxy. If anyone could penetrate human defenses, they could. For 17 days, they reported nothing. Then, on the 18th day, a transmission arrived. Fragmented, distorted, but unmistakably from the Shadow. It contained only sensor readings and a partial visual record. What it showed transformed General Thorm's fear into terror. The humans weren't building weapons. They were building gateways. The massive structures in orbit around Earth and other human worlds were apertures to somewhere else. The sensor readings defied conventional physics, suggesting connections to other dimensions, other realities, perhaps even other universes. And through these gateways flowed resources, energy, and, most terrifying of all, information. Knowledge from beyond the boundaries of known space-time. The humans hadn't achieved their technological leap through conventional research. They had found doors to realms where the rules were different, where what seemed impossible became trivial. They were bringing back the secrets of existence itself. The Shadow's final transmission showed what happened when they were discovered. No violence, no destruction. A human ship, If the shifting, geometrically impossible object could be called a ship, simply approached them. A voice, calm and almost sympathetic, spoke directly into the minds of the crew. You came to understand. Now you do. Return and tell them. Then the shadow found itself back at its starting point. 17 days of journey collapsed into an instant, its crew shaken but unharmed. General Thorm made his decision. If humans could bend reality itself, victory through conventional means was impossible. He transmitted the Shadow's findings to the Council with a single recommendation: accept the Reformation Accords. The final vote came on the 29th day. After bitter debate, threats of secession from multiple member worlds, and the surprise abstention of the Solatians, who traditionally led the conservative faction, the Council narrowly approved the accords. Secretary General Rice returned to the Council chamber, this time with a larger delegation representing Earth and its colonies. The signing ceremony was subdued, tense, laden with the weight of immense change. Today marks not the triumph of one species over others, Rice said after the final signature was recorded, but the beginning of what the Concord always should have been: a true partnership of equals. Humanity developed the Lazarus Protocol because we had to survive. Now we offer its benefits freely, so that all may thrive. In the cycles that followed, the galaxy transformed. Human technology merged with the diverse knowledge of hundreds of species. The dimensional gateways, carefully regulated and researched, yielded advances that benefited worlds long left behind by the old order. New alliances formed based on shared interests rather than ancestral ties. Not all welcomed the change. The Valaxians and several other founding species withdrew from the Reformation Concord, establishing the separate alliance committed to traditional values and historical rights. Tensions remained high along the borders between the two galactic powers, but for the first time in 20,000 years, the majority of sentient beings lived under governance they had chosen rather than inherited. And when the next crisis came, a swarm of extragalactic predators approaching from intergalactic space, they faced it together, with humanity's dimensional technology providing the decisive advantage. General Thorm, now in exile from his homeworld for his role in the Valaxian surrender, sometimes stood at observation windows on distant space stations, watching the strange human ships pass by. They still unnerved him, their geometries suggesting things his mind could not quite grasp. They could have destroyed us all, he once told a companion. Instead, they forced us to be better. And in the quiet hours between the stars, that thought troubled him more than any weapon could have. For it suggested that humans had understood something about power that his species, in 15,000 years of dominance, had never grasped. True strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the courage to transform. And sometimes, the most profound revolution begins with silence.